Njegosh, the failed attempts in the Church-into-Mosque conversion of Europe. Njegosh, Martel, Sobieski. Njegosh, the Prince Bishop of Montenegro, a Montenegrin Serb. Lovchin Mountain, with the Njegosh Mausoleum. Lovchin Mountain, with the Njegosh Mausoleum. The Montenegrin traditional cap with the cross of the Serbs. The cross of the Serbs. Solely. Solidarity. Saves. The Serbs. S. Montenegrins, the mighty race of the mountaineers, says Lord Tennyson. Alfred, Lord Tennyson. Vladislav Alexander Stefan. Montenegrins, the mighty race of the mountaineers, says Lord Tennyson. The tribes and clans of Montenegro. Stefan University Press, La Jolla, California, 2008. Saint Stefan, the patron saint of the Serbs. The name Stefan is very often encountered in the culture and tradition of the Serbs. Saint Stefan, Vadi Stefan, is the patron saint of the Serbs. Almost all the rulers of Serbia and Montenegro have Stefan in their full name. Stefan means the crowned one. The present-day city of Herceg-Novi, Montenegro, was formerly Saint Stefan. And there is Saint Stefan Island, the pearl of the Montenegrin coast, the Montenegrins are so proud of. Njegosh gives to Abbot Stefan, the pillar role in the Mountain Wreath, the power from beyond, working for the Montenegrin Serbs. Saint Stefan. Vadi Stefan. The patron saint of the Serbs. Translations of the Mountain Wreath into English language by James W. Wiles, 1930, Vasa T. Mihailovich, 1986, and Vladislav Alexander Stefan, 2008. Njegosh on the Flooding of Europe by Islam through the West and East Gate of Europe. In his Mountain Wreath, Njegosh depicts the fight of a tiny Montenegro against the Ottoman Empire within the context of failed attempts of Islamization of Europe by the Ottomans and the Moors. The Ottomans had chosen as their ultimate goal the conquest of Europe as a whole, in other words, to replace the cross with a crescent, to replace churches with mosques. It was the dream of a Turk by the name of Osman Ottoman in the early 14th century, in the present-day Turkey, the founder of the empire, named after him. The Ottoman dream had appeared to be too much of a dream. The Serbs have the proverb, a bull's head is way too much to eat for a tomcat. In Serbian, this sounds like this. Stefan's voice.
Mnogo je mačku goveđa glava.
Threat to Western civilization. Hannibal, Attila, the Moors, and the Ottomans, among others. When Hannibal was at the door of Rome, it seemed as it had been the end of the Roman Empire. He stopped there, still puzzling fact, even today, never trying to enter Rome. Attila, the Hun, put Europe on fire, but died. All of a sudden. Some say his wife betrayed, killed him. Out of fire, Europe emerged like the phoenix bird. The Moors had reached the door of the Franks, but Charles the Hammer did hammer them back. Mehmed, the Conqueror, crushed the back door of Constantinople, but the portal of Orthodox Christianity moved to Moscow, Russia. Suleiman, the Magnificent, was at the door of Vienna. He knocked on the door, nobody answered, so he went back for good. Europe saw it, as his wise and magnificent move, and the great Ottoman became Suleiman the Magnificent in Europe. In his Ottoman Empire, he held less magnificent sobriquet, Suleiman the Lawgiver. Kara Mustafa, of Albanian descent, on the order of Sultan Mehmed IV, and inspired by Suleiman the Magnificent, wanted to do some sightseeing of Vienna from the inside. But it was in vain, just as it was for Suleiman. He went back, reaching Belgrade, Serbia. There, the Ottoman Janissaries welcomed him. Sort of. On the order of Sultan Mehmed IV, they strangled the great Ottoman general with the silken bowstring, according to the royal protocol. It would have been truly astonishing. Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, and Mehmed IV, through Kara Mustafa, the conqueror of Vienna. The second event was not to be. Here is what Njegosh says in the Mountain Wreath of Mehmed II and Mehmed IV. The Book of Destiny reads not the same for the two brothers of the same name. The Book of Destiny reads not the same for the two brothers of the same name. The religions of the one true God of Abraham, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, law, love, lenience. Law, love, lenience. The wise man from La Jolla, California, says Stefan, had told me once about the three pillar principles of the religions of Abraham, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They are, he had said, law, order, of God, love, giving, forgiving, of God, and lenience, mercy, of God, respectively. Many disagree. They say that every single one of the three pillar principles is included in each of the three religions of Abraham, in the same measure. The West Gate of Europe, Charles Martel, becomes Charles the Hammer. Before the Ottomans, there had been the attempt of the Muslim Moors to conquer Europe, through the West Gate of Europe, Spain. They failed miserably. The Moors were expelled from Spain in the late 15th century. Christian Europe, for the Moors, appeared to be a bull's head, indeed. As to the attempt of the Muslim Moors to conquer Europe, Njegosh, in his Mountain Wreath, says this: had it not been for the French wall, the Arab Sea would have flooded us all. Had it not been for the French wall, the Arab Sea would have flooded us all. It is 732 AD. The Moors are, in the Gaul lands, the lands of the Franks, the present-day France. The holy war between the Christian Franks and the Muslim Moors is taking place. The Moors want to expand their empire and to force Islam upon Europe. The Franks are not happy about it at all. The Moorish army leader is Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi, and the leader of the Franks is Charles Martel, soon after the Battle of Tours Poitiers, to be called Charles the Hammer, as he hammered back, so to speak, the advancing Moorish army. Charles the Great, the father of Europe, the grandson of Charles the Hammer. The escape of Europe, the Ottoman dream, the Battle of Kosovo, 1389. The conquest of the Byzantine Empire, 1453. The Siege of Vienna, 1529. The Siege of Vienna, 1683. In the early 14th century, the Ottomans were advancing into European continent through the East Gate of Europe, the Byzantine Empire. The defeat at the Gate of Vienna, September 11, 1683, revealed to them finally that the Ottoman dream would never come true. It revealed to the Ottomans that they had failed miserably. It was proved again that Europe was a bull's head for the Ottomans, indeed. The Battle of Kosovo, 1389, the Ottoman Empire against the Serb Empire. The Battle of Kosovo, the Serbs never give in. Never give up. On the Kosovo field, the Crescent had attacked the Cross. It was the battle between the Crescent and the Cross. It was the battle for the Christianity in the lands of the Serbs. The Serbs have succeeded. The Guselmen have been singing about it relentlessly, reminding the coming up generations that the Serbs never give in, never give up. In his Honor and Heroism, Marko Miljanov Popović talks about Neda, a mother from the village of Maidon, who would merrily give her son's life just to avenge the Kosovo. The Battle of Kosovo Field, the Blackbird Field, June 28, St. Vitus Day, Gregorian calendar, June 15, Julian calendar, 1389. Kos is a blackbird, so Kosovo Field means a blackbird's field. The battle between the Serbs and the Ottomans took place on that location in the year 1389. It is fair to say that the outcome of the Battle of Kosovo is inconclusive. Both sides had given scarce information, and that information, which was given, was filled with inaccuracies and contradictions. The interpretations of the third party, the foreigners, who were contemporaries to the battle, were also of the same character. What is certain is that both sides lost their leaders, the Serbs, Prince Lazar, and the Ottomans, Sultan Murad I, and both sides suffered a devastating blow. The aftermath of the battle is clearer. The Serbs lost their complete army, becoming incapable of giving any significant resistance to the Ottomans. On the other hand, the Ottomans had a reserve army in Anatolia, and were capable of continuing the campaign in Serbia and elsewhere. Some Serb noblemen became the vassals, the fifth column, of the Ottomans, facilitating further penetration of the Ottomans into Serbia. The Serb people, however, were never vassals to anyone. They resisted, never giving in, and never giving up. As to the Battle of Kosovo, says Stefan, I have to share this with you. When I studied it in elementary school, I was devastated. I had dreams, lots of them, whereby I would have time traveled back to the battlefield with a heavy machine gun in my hands and would have killed them all, the Ottomans, of course. That's the patriotism of a young heart. Remember the Kosovo, remember the Alamo. For the Serbs, the Kosovo battle is the symbol of their honor and heroism. Kosovo is the place to be remembered. This is similar to Alamo as the symbol of the Americans, the place to be avenged and remembered, as Samuel Houston had claimed. So, remember the Kosovo, and remember the Alamo. The East Gate of Europe, the Byzantine Empire, and the Serb Empire of Tsar Stefan Dušan the Mighty. On May 11, 330 AD, Constantine the Great moves the capital of the Roman Empire from Rome to Constantinople, which becomes the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire had been the most powerful military, cultural, and economic state of Europe since its foundation until the conquest of Constantinople by the Ottomans in 1453. The conquest of the Byzantine Empire, 1453, by the Ottomans, Mehmed II, the Conqueror. Mehmed II, the Conqueror, 1453. Sultan Mehmed II, the Conqueror of Constantinople, was deeply concerned with the danger coming from the fifth column in his environment. his people doubting his wisdom and wit, and siding with his external and internal enemies who wanted the Ottoman throne. Wisely, he first eliminated the fifth column and freed himself so as to focus on the conquest, fulfilling the vow of the Fethi Surah. Mehmed II entered Constantinople, May 29, 1453. His army saluted him, Mashallah, Allah be praised. Long live Mehmed the Conqueror! Long live Mehmed the Conqueror! The dream of the conquest of Christian Constantinople, Eastern Roman Empire, had come true. It was to be Mehmed II that Prophet Muhammad was talking about in his narration, Fethi Surah. You will conquer Constantinople. Mehmed is the Turkish equivalent of the Arab Muhammad. Mehmed II, now Mehmed the Conqueror, entered Hagia Sophia, a Christian cathedral, on horseback. It was the ending of the great Byzantine Empire, and the beginning of yet another one, the great Ottoman Empire. At about the same time, the Holy Russian Empire emerged, under Ivan III, the first Russian emperor, Tsar, as the phoenix bird of the Byzantium. Moscow takes the role of Constantinople, which is renamed into Istanbul. The Byzantine double-headed eagle, the symbol of its power, was taken by Ivan III as the symbol of his own empire. The Byzantine Empire had died out, for good. Apparently, nobody really cared. The center of the Orthodox Christianity moved to Moscow, Russia, whereby it has been growing ever stronger. Hence, the Russophile sentiment is widely spread in the Orthodox Christian lands. Tsar Ivan III takes Zoe Sophia, the niece of Constantine XI, Palaiologos, the last Byzantine emperor, for his wife, and the bloodline of the Russian throne reached back to Constantine the Great, the first Christian Roman emperor. The Orthodox Christian faith was saved. The Ottomans had been puzzled. Was the conquest of Constantinople a real conquest? The answer would have been in the future, and the answer is no. The Orthodox Christian faith is still the major religious faith in Southeast Europe and Russia. The Orthodox Christian faith is a strong bond between Russia, Serbia, and Montenegro. The Siege of Vienna, 1529, by the Ottomans, Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman the Magnificent, the first Ottoman siege of Vienna, 1529. Suleiman the Magnificent was impressed by Alexander the Great and used Alexander's thunderbolt tactic in his vast conquests. It was Suleiman the Magnificent who conquered Belgrade, Serbia, the major Christian stronghold at the time, in 1521, more than a century after the Kosovo battle. After Belgrade, Serbia, 1521, the next step for Suleiman the Magnificent was Vienna, Austria, the Golden Apple, as referred to by the Ottomans. The siege of Vienna took place in 1529. In the north, in Germanic regions, the Protestants were promoting their cause, weakening the power of Rome. Suleiman did not hide his pleasure with the Protestant movement. He wisely supported the Protestant movement, applying the Machiavelli divide and rule principle. Suleiman had a hard time to establish reliable fifth column on his way to the city of Vienna and got stuck in his attempt to capture it. He found himself alone in a strange Christian land, with nobody to turn to. He withdrew for good without tarnishing his sobriquet the Magnificent. The Siege of Vienna, 1683, by the Ottomans, Mehmed IV. Kara Mustafa, Black Stefan, and King Jan III Sobieski of Poland. The Second Ottoman Siege of Vienna, 1683. Kara Mustafa, Black Stefan. Mustafa is Islamic equivalent of Stefan, was promoted by Sultan Mehmed IV into Grand Vizier, the equivalent of Prime Minister and the Army Chief of Staff. Kara Mustafa, of Albanian descent, starts the siege of Vienna on September 11, 1683. King Jan III Sobieski of Poland attacks the Ottoman encampment in the thunderbolt tactic of Alexander the Great from Kahlenberg Mountain and destroys the Ottoman army, similar to Charles Martel in 732 AD, who attacked as a thunderbolt the Moorish encampment and destroyed it. Kara Mustafa, the man who would destroy Christian faith, died in Belgrade, Serbia, on Christmas Day, 1683. Kara Mustafa failed to force Islam upon Europe. At the order of Sultan Mehmed IV, Kara Mustafa was executed in Belgrade, on the Gregorian calendar, Christmas Day, December 25, 1683, as the Gregorian calendar, Europe was celebrating Christmas Day. The Julian calendar, Europe, Russia, Serbia, and Montenegro, among others, was joining the Gregorian Europe with joy and silence. The Orthodox Julian calendar, Christmas Day would be on January 7, 1684. Sultan Mehmed IV issued Qatul Firman for Kara Mustafa after his defeat at Vienna on September 11 to 12, 1683. Kara Mustafa was executed, according to the Ottoman law for dignitaries, Qatul Firman. Kara Mustafa, the great Ottoman general, was strangled in honor by a silken bowstring pulled by several janissaries on several sides. He was given both the respect for his successes and the punishment for his failure at the door of Vienna. As Kara Mustafa had expired, the whole Ottoman Empire started slowly, similar to the Roman Empire, to expire until its last breath on July 24, 1923. On October 29, 1923, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk heralded the establishment of the Republic of Turkey. Njegosh, in his Mountain Wreath, salutes Charles of Lorraine, the commander-in-chief of the army of Emperor Leopold I, and John Sobieski, the King of Poland, for defeating Kara Mustafa at the door of Vienna, 1683. At the Battle of Vienna, September 11 to 12, 1683, Charles V, the Duke of Lorraine, was the commander of the army of Emperor Leopold I, Holy Roman Emperor. The King of Poland and the Duke of Savoy, John III Sobieski, was the commander of the Polish-Lithuanian army. Njegosh, on the defeat of the Ottomans, 1683, at the gate of Vienna. Njegosh says, through Prince Bishop Danilo, late 17th century. Charles, the brave Duke of Leopold's, and Sobieski, the Duke of Savoy. They broke together the demon's horns. The taste of wine is not now what it used to be. The world is not that what you have thought it was. To make a gift of Europe to the Ottomans is the sin even to be dreaming about. A big pear does get stuck in the throat of the Ottoman stagecoach. The girth has broken. Before Vienna, the Ottomans started stumbling. The Ottoman stagecoach went down, crumbling. There is a hidden misery in the glory of the conqueror. What does it mean? It means that conqueror, in the process of his conquest, is he himself conquered. This applies to any walk of life, not only to military affairs. It is the nature of nature. The power of the weak is equal to the power of the strong. Do find, please, for yourself some of the countless examples in the history of the human race. The power of the weak is equal to the power of the strong. The thunderbolt tactic of Alexander the Great, used by both the invaders and the defenders. The thunderbolt tactic of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great of Macedonia would defeat much stronger enemies thanks to his thunderbolt tactic, whereby not a large group, a thunderbolt, of highly trained soldiers, always led by Alexander himself, would attack the center, the leadership, of the enemy, and, in that way, cut off the head of a snake. Through the centuries, Alexander's thunderbolt tactic has become the military tool of both the invaders and the defenders. The thunderbolt tactic of Miloš in the Battle of Kosovo, 1389. The Ottoman Empire attacks the Serb Empire. Before the Battle of Kosovo, 1389, the Serbs were advised by the Ottomans to accept their rule peacefully because the chances of the Serb victory had been non-existent in the eyes of the Ottomans. The Serb leadership refused. It is not a far-fetched idea to think, it seems to me, that the Serbs had in mind Alexander's wisdom when they refused the offer by the Ottomans. As it turned out, a single-man thunderbolt tactic was carried out by Miloš, the celebrated Serb warrior. Miloš penetrated the Ottoman lines up to the very tent of the Sultan and killed him. The Ottoman sources confirm that Sultan Murad I was wounded in the battle and died soon thereafter on the very spot. The thunderbolt tactic of Bayezid I, the Battle of Kosovo, 1389. Bayezid I, the son of Murad I, swiftly took the leadership. The Battle of Kosovo was devastating for both the Serbs and the Ottomans, but the Serbs acquired resilience to win the Serb-Ottoman War. It was Bayezid I, himself nicknamed Bayezid the Thunderbolt, who had started what would have become the failed Ottomanization of Serbia. Instead of a swift conquest and Ottomanization of Serbia, taking into account the overwhelming might of the Ottomans in reference to the Serbs, the bloody, or otherwise, conflict between the Serbs and the Ottomans had lasted about 500 years, considered the longest in the world history. The Serbs were often referred to as the guardians of the Gate of Europe. The thunderbolt tactic of Charles the Hammer and King Jan III Sobieski. At the Battle of Tours, 732 AD, Charles Martel, the grandfather of Charles the Great, the father of Europe, employs the thunderbolt tactic of Alexander the Great and attacks the Mur encampment behind their lines, causing disarray in the Mur army. Abdul Rahman, the Mur leader, gets killed, and the intent for the Church-into-Mosque conversion of Europe, from the West Gate of Europe, was cut short. During the siege of Vienna on September 11 to 12, 1683, King Jan III Sobieski of Poland attacks the Ottoman encampment as a thunderbolt from Kahlenberg Mountain and destroys the Ottoman army, similar to Charles Martel, in 732 AD. The intent for the Church-into-Mosque conversion of Europe, from the East Gate of Europe, was cut short. Both Charles Martel and King Jan III Sobieski are referred to as the saviors of Christianity in Europe. The thunderbolt tactic, Mehmed the Conqueror and Suleiman the Magnificent. Alexander the Great was the hero of Mehmed the Conqueror. Mehmed II studied carefully Alexander's campaigning and adopted the thunderbolt tactic as his major military tool. In his conquest of Constantinople, 1453, as a 21-year-old man, Mehmed employed the thunderbolt tactic, many of them to confuse enemy. He did it, in a literal sense, too. He used large cannon, hitherto unseen, named the Sultan cannon, weighing some 700 tons, and the cannonballs, about 1.5 tons each. The cannonballs, the thunderbolts, were strong enough to crush the impenetrable walls of Constantinople. Suleiman the Magnificent was impressed by Alexander the Great and used the thunderbolt tactic in his vast conquests. It was Suleiman the Magnificent who conquered Belgrade, Serbia, the major Christian stronghold at the time, in 1521, more than a century after the Kosovo battle. The Thunderbolt Tactic, William the Conqueror, Nobunaga of Japan. Hannibal of Carthage. The Thunderbolt Tactic of Alexander the Great was employed by William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings, 1066. His knights, in a thunderbolt formation, attacked King Harold of England, and finished him. England was conquered, and William became William the Conqueror. He was crowned the King of England on Christmas Day, 1066, in Westminster Abbey in London. In a 1570 Japan, Lord Nobunaga Oda, with his 3,000 soldiers, attacked the encampment of Lord Yoshimoto Imagawa, the army of 40,000 soldiers, and won. Having had in mind much stronger Imagawa's army, Nobunaga, an admirer of Christianity, was focused on the offense rather than the defense. This is the wisdom of Alexander the Great that had always brought him victory. Hannibal applies the thunderbolt tactic of Alexander the Great in the battle at Cannae, 216, before Christ, against the Romans. It was Hannibal's army, of some 45,000 troops, against some 85,000 Romans. Hannibal was positioned in the central part, relatively weak, of his army, serving as a bait to lure the Romans in, which they did. The strong wings of Hannibal's army, Alexander's wisdom of the crescent formation of an army, encircled the Romans in a blitzkrieg, and won. This led to the greatest Hannibal's victory ever, still studied in the military academies worldwide. The thunderbolt tactic of Novopopov, of the Kuchi tribe of Montenegro. In his honor and heroism, Marko Miljanov Popovich addresses the assassination of Pasha Sokolovich by Novopopov. Pasha Sokolovich is a Montenegrin Ottomanite, a descendant of the Christian family converted to Islam. In his Examples of Honor and Heroism, Marko Miljanov Popovich depicts the events of honor and heroism in Montenegro of old. He had had no intention whatsoever, as it is clearly seen from the writings, of making it a myth. Accordingly, his honor and heroism should never be turned into a myth, that, somehow, the Montenegrins are a unique race, morally ideal. Montenegrin tribes fought each other, and in the process did many horrible things to each other. What Marko Miljanov Popovich tells us on honor and heroism is, however, found in ethnicities, nations, and races worldwide, and at any and all time. Yes, the Montenegrin tribes did fight each other. In his Honor and Heroism, Marko Miljanov Popovich talks about the tribes and clans of Montenegro, and about some examples of their moral codes, without any intention of making it a myth. Accordingly, this should never be turned into a myth, that, somehow, the Montenegrins are a unique race, morally ideal. This type of attitude prevents you from growing and improving yourself. The tribes and clans of Montenegro fought each other, as Njegosh explains. A Montenegrin Serb by the name of Nikola Novakovic betrayed Karageorge, Kara, Black, as named by the Ottomans, the father of Serbia, as referred to by Njegosh, and killed him with an axe in his sleep. Quite often, there were bloody fights among the tribes and clans thereupon, resulting in a decades-long blood vendetta. The blood vendetta, eradicated in Europe, is, alas, still alive in Montenegro, and in Sicily, Italy. Novopopov, from the village of Medulin, Montenegro, applies the thunderbolt tactic in his military action, just as Miloš Obilić had done at the Battle of Kosovo, 1389. Miloš Obilić, alone, reaches the tent of Sultan Murad I, and assassinates him. Novo, also alone, reaches the tent of Pasha Sokolovich, and kills him, the Fundina mountain region, Montenegro. Unlike Miloš, who gets killed on the spot, June 28, 1389, at the Kosovo Blackbird field, Novo manages to escape. Novopopov is a son of Pop Murcheta Ilikov Drakelovich. Iliko is a son of Lale Jolla is a son of Dracali. The descendants of Pop Marchetta are the Popovichs, such as Marko Miljanov Popovich, and my maternal grandfather, Stefan Radosavov Popovich. In the early 17th century, under the leadership of Lal Drikalov, the Catholic Kuchi tribe converted to Orthodox Christianity. Some say that Dracali, the Illyrian version of Alexander, was the descendant of George Kostrioti, known as Skanderbeg, an Albanian Christian leader whose mother was a noblewoman of the Serb descent. The others say that Dracali was a descendant of Mother Angelina, a Serbian saint, of an Albanian father and a Serb mother. The interaction of the Montenegrin tribes and the Albanian tribes at the present-day border between Montenegro and Albania has given rise to a number of historical controversies not yet studied in depth. Njegosh, in his Mountain Wreath, salutes Skanderbeg, together with Miloš Obilić, as the great defenders of Christian faith. The fifth column. The traitors among us. The Mountain Wreath by Njegosh is considered one of the most important works in the Serb-Yugoslav literature. It depicts the epic war of a tiny Montenegro against the mighty Ottoman Empire. And it anathematizes the conversion of the Montenegrin Orthodox Serbs into Islam. Njegosh, the great Prince-Bishop of Montenegro, the land of the Black Mountains, was a great judge of his times. He saw the grave danger in the Ottomanization of the Orthodox Christian Montenegro. He put the anathema upon the fifth column, the domestic Ottomans, referred to as the Ottomanites, in his celebrated The Mountain Wreath. Although the Ottomans had had a little success in penetrating tiny Montenegro on their own, there was a great danger that they could have succeeded with the help of the Ottomanites. This is the historical event that had taken place in Montenegro at the end of the 17th century, the eradication of the Ottomanites, the Ottomanized Montenegrins. According to the Njegosh account, at least a few hundreds of the Ottomanites were eradicated, and a sizable number of the Orthodox Montenegrins. The Ottomanization had been stopped for good. This was the major blow to the Ottomanization, which, thereupon, never recuperated. Montenegro was cleaned up from the Ottomanites, who have remained the minority since. The greatness of a nation is reflected in its treatment of its minorities. The greatness of a nation is reflected in her treatment of the minorities. Wars, says Stefan, are won by the human intellect, emotion, intuition, and the strength of spirituality, not by the brutal force. When you take a look at a particular army, you see the visible power of it. There is yet another power, the invisible power, the spirit, harbored in the hearts of the soldiers. Sun Tzu tells us that clearly in his Art of War, whereby the weaker Wu state had won, the stronger Chu state. The insidious power for the aggressor, and the danger for the attacked of the fifth column was recognized by Sun Tzu, as was later by Hannibal, Julius Caesar, Dracula the Impaler, the German Nazis, Viet Cong, and others. Without strong fifth column, the invaders can never win. With strong fifth column, the defenders can never win. It is widely accepted, in variety of military doctrines, that the fifth column, in the course of time, breaks or makes the success of the aggressor. The weakening of the fifth column means the weakening of aggression as a whole. Mehmed the Conqueror and Suleiman the Magnificent, successfully fighting the traitors, the fifth column. During their reigns, both the great leaders of the Ottoman Empire had had serious internal enemies, intending to capture the throne. Byzantine influence in Mehmed's empire was very strong, and so was the influence of Western Europe, France, in particular, in the Suleiman Empire. Both men saw it as a grave danger and have been successfully eliminating it. No aggressor, says Stefan, can win the war without the help of a strong fifth column. To achieve victory, the attacked, invaded nation should first destroy the fifth column. I wish this to go down in history as my contribution to the military theory. I am just kidding. Or maybe not. The present-day homegrown and foreign terrorism is a form of the fifth column. It is not war, per se, but an engagement which, if not timely treated, can be coordinated into war, the global war against terror. The unity of the Slavic ethnicities and the minorities in the lands of Yugoslavia. Njegosh, the Prince Bishop of Montenegro, says Stefan, and Marko Miljanov Popovich, the Duke of Montenegro, had been the fighters for the unity of the Slavic ethnicities in the lands of Yugoslavia and for the unity of the Slavic people in general, contributing to the Pan-Slavism movement of the 19th century. You may laugh now, but who laughs last, laughs best. I am confident, says Stefan, that in the future, the Slavic ethnicities and the minorities in the lands of Yugoslavia will unite again into one nation, one passport. Yugoslav passport. As the model of unity, the model of the USA would be an excellent choice. And the name, the United States of Yugoslavia, would be an excellent choice as well. You may laugh now, but who laughs last, laughs best. You may laugh now, but who laughs last, laughs best. Idea never dies. Once having been born, an idea never dies. The brick and mortar entities are built and destroyed, but the ideas as their bone marrow stay intact and reappear in different robes in the flow of time. The ideas, either already experienced by humans or yet to be experienced by humans, never die. History of the human race is but the hopping of the same ideas through the variety of brick and mortar entities. If I were younger, says Stefan, I would dedicate all my life to the unity of the Slavic ethnicities and the minorities in the lands of Yugoslavia. The Church-into-Mosque conversion of Europe was not to be, says Stefan. As Kara Mustafa had expired, the whole Ottoman Empire started to slowly expire, until its last breath on July 24, 1923. The Church-into-Mosque conversion of Europe was not to be.